And this is the August 9th meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals of Symmes Township. Would everyone please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First issue is the approval of the agenda.
I move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Swearing in. Is there anyone interested in speaking at this meeting of the public?
I will, but I'm an attorney on behalf of the applicant.
Okay.
Today. I think there's a chance of you maybe speaking. Yeah.
Well, if you would both rise, and Brian, raise your right hand. I swear or affirm that I will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you. We are hearing the appeal of EZA number 2021-03, David Darwish. Is that correct pronunciation? Correct. RIC Construction, Inc., 9436 Union Cemetery Road, which is across the street from our normal meeting place at the Symmes Township Meeting Hall. And it's an issue of the construction of a detached garage. Would anybody like to speak in favor? Brian is going to introduce.
Start,
Yes.
I want to let it be known, I used to work with David
Okay.
on projects with Macy's. I just want to let it be known, it's up to the board.
Okay.
How the board wants is to be part of this or not.
David, do you think this is a conflict of interest?
I don't believe so. I mean, we haven't worked together with Ralph for quite some time now.
Probably about 10 years,
Yes.
but I wanted to let it be known.
Ralph, do you feel conflicted?
No, I don't. I just wanted to be upfront with the board and let everybody know that.
Are you okay?
Yes.
All right, we'll proceed.
One
Sure.
before we start, do you want, since we normally
In the hope that the reasons for the disapproval, and you will then have an opportunity to present your case and the reasons for your appeal of this matter. Ryan, feel free.
Yes, thank you. Brian Snyder, Hamilton County Planning and Development. I prepared the report that you should have before you. As you stated, this is a variance request for 9436 Union Cemetery Road. The request is for a detached garage with greater height and area and occupying more area of the required rear yard. The property is zoned a single-family residence. The actual zoning regulations for a property with less than 150 feet in lot width allow for a 1,032 square foot, 12.5 foot tall detached accessory structure. The request tonight is for a 5,000 square foot detached accessory garage with a height of 18 feet and 2 inches and occupying more than 30% of the rear yard. So the structure as proposed requires variances to 3 different sections of the zoning code. Again, that's the size, the height, and the maximum area of the rear yard. The property is over an acre in size, and property is over an acre in size with 150 feet of lot width. Our garage resolution was revised in years past to allow a larger detached accessory structure, 1,032 square foot maximum size for detached garages. Change to allow a 1,000 square foot garage for larger properties. But this 150 feet in width is garage that's being proposed is permitted. That's the variant request for the size of the garage itself. Height is would be 18 feet 2 inches, and the maximum permitted height is 12 feet 6 inches. So it's a little bit under 6 foot height variance that's being requested. And then the maximum coverage of 30% of the rear yard. The intention of that regulation is to have your rear yard be open so that you're not building structures all over your rear yard to the point where you don't have a yard. That's the point of the rear yard, so that there's an area open to the sky. And the maximum coverage that's permitted is 30%. What they would propose with the garage is 7.1% of the rear yard. So that's the third variance. From 30% to 57.1% of the required area of the rear yard would be covered by this structure. The staff report goes into the surrounding uses. Union Cemetery Road you would not be able to see a structure very well from Union Cemetery Road. It's pushed all the way to the back of the property, 11 feet from the far rear property line. It's behind the large existing house that's on the property. So it wouldn't have necessarily an impact on Union Cemetery, the general public driving by. To the west is the entrance to a condominium complex in Loveland. And on that property line is mature vegetation, and there is a existing privacy fence and some garages over on that side, or a fence, I'm sorry, and some garage buildings on that side that would screen this from those condominiums. So it shouldn't have a negative impact on those properties either. To the north is the same condominium complex. There are garages along the north property line as well. The condominiums sit taller than the garages that they have. They're single-story garages, so this would also be taller than the garages. The people in the condominiums would be looking at the back of this structure. There's not a lot of vegetation on that property line. There is a privacy fence, but it's 6 feet tall, so it wouldn't do much to screen the top of the building from the adjacent neighbors. To the east is another single-family house owned by the same owner. The property owner of this property also owns the house next door. And then there are the properties further to the west or to the east, but those also have privacy fences and mature vegetation, so it wouldn't necessarily impact them. The greatest impact would be on the property to the north. There is also a vacant property to the west. So this property is in the middle. There's a house to the east that's owned by the same owner. There's another property, a separate lot to the west, that's also owned by the same owner. If those two properties were consolidated or there were some kind of property transfers, they could easily make this property more than 150 feet in width and be allowed to have the 2,000 square foot garage. But as the staff report points out, if they were allowed to have the 2,000 square foot garage and they widen the property to more than 150 feet, they may be able to remove the need for the percentage of the required rear yard variance, but they would need a setback variance because larger so there was break up incorporated into the size, they may be able to do it without the need for any variances, which would result in 5 separate structures being located behind the house. They could push them closer to the street to get them out of the required rear yards. They may be able to get 5,000 square feet of garage area without a need for a variance. So that's something that the board can consider, is whether or not that would look better or worse than what's being requested. But the kind of the main point of the variance is a 5,000 square foot garage, 1,000 square foot garage. I haven't seen any requests for garage. I'm not sure. I couldn't find any history on what this board has done size, because I can't recall ever seeing one this size board. And then we looked at other variances in the surrounding areas. We've got entry walls for developments and signs for single family neighborhoods that have been granted variances, along with a couple of privacy fences on corner lots in the area, but there has not been another variance for a larger or taller accessory structure that we could find in this portion of Symmes Township. So this is a variance that is based on practical difficulties. It's not a use variance or unnecessary hardship. The factors that are to be considered for practical difficulties variances are numbered 1 through 7 and on page 4 of the staff report. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Why is this a practical difficulty?
This is a permitted use.
owner owns a boat and all-terrain vehicles. And the options for him are to park those on the property or to house them in this garage. And aesthetically, it's going to look better. It's going to take care of his property by having a garage that can house these, as opposed to having them sit on the property. For those reasons, we'd ask that the variance be granted. Mr. Darwish is here as well today to answer any questions you may have about the construction. Anything?
All right.
Go ahead.
Now we know our rules. Any questions now, we need to ask now, because when we get into deliberations, that's just among us.
I just want to know if you have any questions before I get into some of mine.
No, feel free.
Okay. You're saying, one of your reasonings is, well, across the street, we have commercial. On your side, it's residential. Okay, the residential code is very specific of the size of the building. You're wanting to put a building that is a lot bigger than what's allowed. So, and your justification, from what I'm hearing, is that, oh, on the other side of the fence, there's this long garage that belongs to the in Symmes Township, and they have their own zoning codes, and you're asking us to deviate from our codes because of Loveland's codes, number one. Number two, your piece of property meets or is specific size and there are other alternate options out there possible, and that you could talk to your architect, I see, to possibly do some other things that doesn't push this building straight up against the property line. And alleviate some of these problems as well. So I'm just concerned that you're asking us to, in my mind, asking us to grant a variance that we're superseding our codes to such a degree that I'm with.
Sure.
I mean, what are you telling me to make me feel comfortable with this?
Well,
Something
and I'll
five
just take those in the
What?
order
Five
that.
times the size
Yeah,
is what I
it's,
think
yeah, it's
Brian
five
said.
times. You know, we're not talking a couple of feet here, a couple of feet taller. We're talking a
So
lot.
That's a huge.
So if
And
I
I
can touch on-
understand RVs.
Yeah.
That's a big piece of equipment,
Yeah.
and he needs to get that in the door and get it covered. You know, and I'm willing to work with that. But this is a big structure.
Sure.
And it's bigger than most homes.
And I know we say we're not talking about a couple of feet, but we get to the point where are behind in
beginning. I've been on before. And I'm protecting your kids.
Thank you. Because they need it. We're on.
We're back on. Okay.
So I believe at this point, we need
We're
to
waiting
have
for their
a
decision.
motion to continue. Okay.
So are we officially scheduled for next meeting, or do we have to go through any paperwork?
So the next meeting is September 13th. If it were continued, it would be September 13th. I believe the decision would allow, but you would have to submit an official paperwork. It's a continuation of the existing hearing in progress.
Just what we want you guys to see.
Right, yeah, just the last points.
So, and we can move that out even further, 60 days if they need that, or is that correct? We can move that out 60 days if they need the additional time?
Well, it depends on when you continue to, yes.
Okay.
If you have the ability to continue talking, or you'd like.
Do you need more time?
I mean, I think we'll just need a short amount of time to rework this.
Okay.
To figure out what they want to do.
Okay.
And
We already have an architect on board. I mean, this is gonna be a beautiful building, and it's very intriguing that.
David, do you want to, if you're going to talk, you
Sure.
want to come up
Yeah.
and state your name? And
David Darwish, 4221 Mulsbury Road. I mean, it's intriguing to me that we can go today and get a permit for 5 different buildings and put them there, and I won't even have to deal with you at all as far as how aesthetically pleasing it is or anything like that. We're trying to do the right thing. They have a beautiful house, and we're trying to make it even more beautiful. So I just want to make sure, if the size is the concern, I mean, the aesthetics are there, and to his point, if we turn it, which if that's what it's going to take to get approved, we'll turn it. But I know in my heart of hearts, as a builder, that it looks much nicer the way it is now than turning it. But so be it. We'll go with whatever, you think is going to give us the best chance. But we're not building just your normal garage. We're building something that's going to look as beautiful as the house. So we're putting a lot of, effort in making this look really, really good, because they're very proud of the property, and we have no intention of having any neighbor but to look at it and feel that it looks really a good building to look at.
well, if you want, could I give my suggestion? In the plan, show the RV, the boat, and the pieces of equipment that he wants to put in there.
Sure.
So we could actually see how it fits. And if you're going to justify the size, that's going to justify the size.
Absolutely. I mean, these are all, you can have an architect in 5 minutes draw all these things.
No, but that justifies
Sure,
a
sure.
lot more than,
Sure, we'll do that. We'll do that. I'm just reminding you
Mhm.
that we can go and build 5 buildings, which we don't want to do that because we think it's absurd and it would look like terrible. Okay, we're trying to do the right thing, and that is what's important. Right thing for the owner, right thing for Symmes Township, right thing for the whole neighborhood. Okay, that's the intent of going through all this process and having an architect on board and a designer and all that stuff. We're not doing something on a napkin. We're trying to do it perfectly right. So I just want to make sure you all know the effort that we're going through this, okay? We understand it's a bigger structure, and we're saying we're trying to compensate with that, with aesthetics, the location, all that stuff. We looked at all these factors, and yeah, to his point, honestly, we'll do it 90 degrees. We'll come back, we'll show the RV, we'll show the boat, we'll show the quads and all that stuff in the building, and then you'll make the determination, okay?
Yeah, and that's all we're trying to do here is, justifying our decisions, and it's all we can do. And just seeing the plan, comparing it to the size of the house, the elevation, I mean, it's big.
It's a bit. We're not disputing. It's
And that's all
5,000
I'm
square
trying to do
feet.
is
Yes.
justify it, and here's how it can be justified.
Sure.
So,
Sure.
and that's what I think everybody needs to see and how it gets justified.
We'll do that, and hopefully it will meet your approval, and you feel that it's something good for Symmes Township, because the bottom line is that all of you here to determine what's best for Symmes Township. And believe me, we have that at the very heart of what we're trying to do, is what is best for Symmes Township and how nice it would look for Symmes Township. Something that we'll be proud of, and hopefully everyone who passes by, including neighbors, will be very proud of. Not something hideous and ugly. Anyway, thank you.
That's what we're all here for.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, do we move to continue now?
Do we make a motion?
I move to continue this hearing until September 13th, 2021.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
I second it.
All approved. Okay, we've granted the motion for the next
Thank you.
hearing, September 13th.
appreciate that very much.
And we're moving on to the next item of business, which is old business. Luann, do we have anything?
The fireplace was taken down on Timberlake Drive.
Really?
We're getting that again?
Fireplace was taken down on Timberlake Drive.
Oh, good.
No?
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm amazed. So this was after it was in,
The judge, what happened with the judge? The judge dismissed it? Yeah.
Oh.
So they took it down.
They weren't happy, I could tell you that. They
Oh,
weren't
no.
happy.
And this is the pool next to the house?
mhm.
What
With
about
the fire.
What about the tree house?
Treehouse came down too. That was
Okay.
Yeah, that came down.
Okay. That's enough old business. Any new business?
New business, we're looking for an alternate for the committee, and I think we've got some applications coming. We've got a case next month, pretty sure, right?
Yeah, the deadline was, next month's meeting was pushed back because of Labor Day, so was the deadline. So the deadline to submit is August 13th, to be on September 13th's BZA meeting. I believe that we're going to get a conditional use request in for 5 seasons, so I think we're going to have a meeting anyway next month, plus this one.
Okay, and then, of course, we can't have Zoom meetings anymore, so it'll be here.
Oh, so they're all we should plan on all of them being here
Yeah.
now?
What was
Yeah.
the reasoning for it?
Because I guess apparently the House approved the modifications to the Open Meetings Act, but the Senate never
The
approved it.
state.
Yeah.
The state level?
And our law director caught that and said you can't do it anymore, so.
Wow.
That's a
And then,
question.
and they're offering to have them here because everybody could spread out and stuff.
Mhm.
I don't know, so hopefully by January though, we can go back to our building, because
Yeah, I was
it's just
hoping.
easier, it's easier, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we know that building.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Now, once again, what was the reason not to be at the old building?
they wanted to spread out with COVID. They've always had their meetings
Oh,
here through the whole
okay.
time, yeah. Yeah.
For our little meetings?
Well, I know, for us it
We
doesn't make
never get
sense,
but
but it's
6
just easier
people.
to just advertise that they're all here, I guess.
Okay.
So I understand what you're saying, especially tonight with only 3 board members,
Okay.
but that's the way.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Oh,
No,
wait,
we
you
have
gotta
a
approve the
ministry.
minutes. You
admin.
gotta approve the minutes
Do
of
we
the
have,
May 19th.
do we have enough people to approve those minutes? Did all 3 of us attend?
Let me look.
I may not have been here on the Zoom meeting.
May 3rd. Members present were Mr. Fowler, Ms. Harlow, and Mr. Wolf.
Oh, I was here.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Fantastic. I move to approve.
I'll second it.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Okay.
And I move that we adjourn.
Jennifer,
Second.
all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Felt like that was a long time to get